Hey guys, welcome to my new video, and in this tutorial I'm going to be going over editing this car photo in Adobe Lightroom. Now, I've been getting a lot of questions about two photos in particular, this one being one of them and the other being this murder bathtub scene, which I'll be doing a full tutorial on that within the next 1 or 2 days, so keep an eye on that. And yeah, so in this tutorial I'm going to be covering this car photo from start to finish, and you will need Adobe Lightroom, and Photoshop is an option. So this should be fairly long, but I'm going to rush over it a little bit just so it's not like a 15 to 20 minute video. Okay, so to start things off, we're in Adobe Lightroom 4 at the moment. This will be translatable to Lightroom 3 if you're using that, and we've already imported the photo and we're in the development tab. So the first thing we're going to do is skip white balance and exposure and contrast. We're not going to worry about any of those. And we're going to move down to highlights. Now what I'm going to do is bring the highlights right down. Now the reason for this is, as you can see just then, I brought some color back into the sky, and you can see there's a few highlighted parts on these trees in the background and these boats here, as well as on the car, which are going to start eliminating. Okay, so now we're going to bring the shadows up very slightly, we're going to bring up the whites very slightly, and we're going to pump up the blacks quite a bit to about 80. Now, like I said, to help even out the image, and you can see our image now compared to the original is quite a flat image. You can see a lot more detail in the grill here. Okay, so now after that we're going to go down to clarity, and we're going to bump this up to about 70. Now as you can see from that, we've pretty much really helped define all of these edges on the car, as well as the details and pretty much everything in the picture. So now we're going to bring the vibrance down to about -30, and then bring the saturation up to 30. Okay, so now moving down, we're going to change this from linear to about medium, and we can see our image is actually already quite a bit better just from those basic things so far. Okay, so from there we're going to skip hue, saturation, and luminance, and we're going to go down to split toning. Now the settings that I used are 40, 30, 30, 210, and 10. Now what this pretty much is it's going to add that slightly brown tint to the whole image while keeping that blue tint within the shadows, and it's a fairly cool effect in my opinion. Now moving down to sharpening, we're going to bring this up to about 70. We're going to change the radius to about 1.5, and we're going to change the detail to about 10, and the masking to about 30. Now this is a pretty overall good sharpening, and that's what I use for all of my photos, and I learned that in some other tutorial, and I've just stuck with that ever since. Now we're going to skip luminance. Since I shot this on a 5D Mark III, like I said, at ISO 200, there's going to be virtually no noise whatsoever, so I'm not going to need to add any of that. We're going to go down to lens corrections now, and all I'm going to do is add a vignette. So I'm going to drop this to about -50, and then the midpoint to about 10. Now the reason for this is to pretty much add a bit more contrast to the corners, add some color back into the sky, and overall bring your attention towards the center a bit more. So that's pretty much it for the main adjustments. Now we're going to move on to graduated filters, adjustment brushes, and we're going to crop the image. So in the final version I showed you, it was quite a wide looking shot, and that's just because I cropped it. So what I'm going to do is bring up the crop overlay, make sure our lock is unlocked so we can change the aspect ratio, and I'm going to bring this down quite a bit and then bring this up a little bit. And now we have that really wide angle look to the photo. Now what I'm going to do is go to the graduated filter option, and we're going to drop the exposure quite a bit to about -0.5, so half a stop, and we're going to drop the highlights quite a bit as well, and the clarity a little bit to about -50. So that should be fairly good like that. And now I'm just going to draw that in like that, and you can see we've just darkened up the sky a little bit. Now we're going to go across to the adjustment brush, and again we're going to drop the exposure this time by about 1.5 stops, the highlight again, and we're going to reset the clarity. Now I'm just going to make a nice big brush by using the scroll wheel and draw over the sky like so. Might make it a little bit bigger, just a nice feathered edge like that, and then hold Alt, make it even bigger just to feather it out a little bit more and not make it too obvious. And you can see we're getting quite a nice effect like that. Now we can even bring up the saturation a little bit if you want a bit more blue back in that sky, and we're getting closer to our final result. So now we're going to click this new option here to make another adjustment brush, and this time we're just going to drop the saturation by about -50, and this time we're just going to paint over the car. Now this doesn't really need to be exact, since The bitumen below the car and the sky above it is pretty much close to grey anyway. No one's really going to notice if you get a bit of this onto them. So now the reason I did that was because you can see before I applied that, it's quite a strong blue color and the car is close to grey. So I decided to desaturate just the car only to keep the overall split toning of the image that I have at the moment. Now the reason I didn't fully desaturate is you can see if I do that, you can easily tell it's been photoshopped like that, and I didn't want that. So now what we can do is create another brush again, and the final thing I did with adjustment brushes is you can see there's quite a few highlights on this boat still and on the side of the car. So what we're going to do is reset this by double clicking it and create a new one once again, bring the highlights right down. Now press Z to zoom in and just paint in some highlight removal on this side of the car. And that's going to help bring a bit of detail back into the car and not make it look so blown out in certain areas. And we can also do that on the water to the side and these boats here, and that's pretty good right there. So now what we're going to do is take this image into Photoshop and add the final corrections. So I'll just pause this and reopen it up into Photoshop. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop. Now if you watched my tutorial on enhancing details, that's pretty much what I'm quickly going to cover now. So if you want it more in depth, I'll have like a little annotation down on the screen so you can check that out. But otherwise, you should be right with this. So what we're going to do is duplicate our background layer by dragging it down to here and create a new adjustment layer, add curves, and just pretty much bring this down like this and bring that up. And you can see what just happened to the ground beneath the car. It looks a lot more enhanced, and yeah, it just looks quite a bit better. So now what we're going to do is click the mask here, bring out our brush tool, make it black, make it quite big, and just paint over everything except for the ground. So going to paint over the car, the background up here, all of the sky if you want, and all of this is personal preference, by the way. You don't need to do exactly what I'm saying, but that's pretty much what I did, and you can see the difference is quite dramatic. And what we're going to do now is go to our duplicated layer, go filter, other, and down to high pass, and just pretty much leave this at about 5 for me. You might have to vary it depending on the size of your photo. Now again, we're going to create a layer mask by clicking down here, use black and paint over everything we don't want, so pretty much everything again except for the ground. And that should be fine like that. And now we're going to set that layer to overlay. And that just pretty much helps really define the edges, add that more gritty feel. And you can add it to some of the details in the car if you want. So if you change your brush to white, decrease the size, you can go over the car here, add a bit more detail to these parts, and yeah, it's really up to you, so get creative with it. And now that we've done that, the final thing I did was add some black bars. So to do this, I just go up to image, canvas size, change it to centimeters, and I'll just make it about 24 centimeters, so that'll give us a centimeter on each side. And we can see now we have black bars. So that's pretty much it. You can see the before and after. There's quite a big change. Now if you found this helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you could thumbs up the video or leave a comment on any other tutorials you're looking for, or even subscribe if you want to stay tuned for more editing tutorials. Like I said, I'll be showing how I edited this bathtub murder scene. So if I've done that by the time you've seen this, I'll have an annotation where you can click it and a link in the description. If not, that'll be up in the next couple of days, and you can check out my photography on my DeviantArt. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.